On this episode of AV Week, the lasting impact of a virtual InfoComm. LG gets into the cinema display business and how museums can leverage AV to create safe, exceptional experiences. All that and more. Next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 462, recorded Friday, June 26, 2020. AV tells stories.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by QSC, who invites you to go native with the QSys audio, video, and control ecosystem. And by Vadio, makers of the new NDI professional broadcast camera, the RoboShot 30E NDI, with simultaneous HDMI and full NewTek NDI streaming.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week, first and foremost, he is known as an industry pundit. His name is Mr. Brad Grimes. You know him and love him. How are you, sir?
Good, Tim. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. From the far west coast, which doesn't have any clue what they're doing with COVID-19, USC's very own Mr. Joe Way.
Hey, thanks so much, Tim, for having me on.
Absolutely. And a young man that I just got the pleasure of meeting today for the first time, sort of virtually, Eugene Ababio from Art Media. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Tim, for having me today.
Absolutely. First story comes to us from AV Network and our buddy Cindy Davis, who is still editing my stuff, at least on Twitter, if you follow her or me on Twitter. The Annenberg Space for Photography recently upgraded their experience center with QSys Core, the Samsung Wall micro LED technology. That replaced a 13-foot rear projection glass screen. Just real quickly, I have a soft spot in my heart for rear projection glass screens. I just think they're sexy, just personal, right? Cindy, in her reporting and talking with the folks at this facility, they thought it made their images look flat. Now, a place that is known for photography and for video and for motion pictures and stuff like that, we can agree to disagree on that. But what I want to do here is talk about this move for that museums and other spaces like it, right? Whether it's the Air and Space Museum, it's the Smithsonian, or it's this Annenberg place. Joe, I'm going to start with you on this. What are museums doing, or what can museums doing currently and other spaces like it to enhance the experience when it comes to, whether it's micro LED like the Samsung, it's immersive audio, it's something like maybe the Dolby Atmos system, which if you haven't experienced it, it's a complete surround sound system, including, above your head and behind you. What can museums do to bring people back in after this crisis is over?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a yes and on all of those. And it's interesting because we have two buildings on campus with the name Annenberg, so this is a very good article for us. And the thing is they're actually leading buildings in creating an experience when you show up, right? When we do want to go out and we do want to come back, we need to have a little extra. I don't want to keep saying experience, but you do. I mean, I think of places like the Artec House in New York, where everything is fully immersive, where the video continues around you, where when you actually show up, that your device can become your additional experience in with the room, that you can get your information that way, that you can be able to get the audio of whatever is going on. The days of just a basic, here's the painting, here's a picture of whatever it is we did, are going to be gone, and they have to be. And I completely agree with you with the projection too. I mean, that's classic stuff. But I think that when you have our new generation, if you're not actually being able to take that information and give it to them and let them absorb it in the way they want to, whether it be with their device or their own perception and in whether visual, sound, everything, you're not going to pull the numbers. People are just not going to come back.
Yeah, Brad, Joe makes a good point about this next generation coming up. My kids, I think my kids are officially Zoomers, or maybe they might be a generation beyond that. These are folks who grew up with cell phones and mobile technology. This is the generation, a lot of smart people, smarter than me, have said that will really grasp the augmented reality and the virtual reality even more so than Gen Xers or millennials did. Is that what Joe's talking about, where we're making sure that not only safety-wise, it's our device, right? But the beauty of having a mobile technology and always with you is the fact that automatically lends itself to AR and VR. Is this where we see that technology kind of heading next for maybe its next frontier?
Yeah, that and so many other things. I mean, AV is like the greatest gift to the museum industry. I mean, a couple of years ago, museums were growing at a healthy clip. I mean, you would get hundreds of new museums opening all the time. And think about it, we're not always talking about big art museums. There are museums for a lot of different things. Every sports team has a museum now at their venue. Museums are everywhere because AV can tell stories. I mean, think of what's in museums. You see artifacts, you see a suit of armor or something like that. AV can tell the story about that. And so that's why a lot of, museums were implementing them. Now, I say this, assuming that everything is going to go back to, well, not normal, but we're going to get back to museums. And unfortunately, museums are in a place right now where it's tough to get people in there. But, these types of things, augmented reality, audiovisual technology are, it's a renaissance for museums because it really lets them tell the stories of things that might not otherwise be telling a story on their own. And so I think it's a huge market for AV, and I hope it comes back as strong as it was before this all started.
Eugene, what other technologies are we not seeing? I mean, I mentioned the AR, VR, Joe did as well. But what other technologies are we maybe missing that museums and other spaces like that can leverage to really kind of get people back, but also make the experience a little bit more exceptional?
Well, in truth, that question is for the younger generation. I think a lot of us who are now, I might look young, but I've been in AV since the early mid '90s. So I've seen a lot, in terms of technological advancement through the years. But I think that question really is for the young folks because, in truth, we've been spending a lot of times indoors. We've been watching TV, streaming. My daughter here watches YouTube the entire day. Right. So she's essentially inundated with a lot of technology, a lot of good quality video, right, that unfortunately, these kids get to see within their homes and sometimes not be able to see within their schools. So I think that question really is for the upcoming generation. And in truth, we were talking about rear projection screen. Rear projection screen, as great as it is an old technology. Right. And I'm really excited about what's really going to come out of this COVID-19, right? A lot of people have been spending a lot of time at home. Now, a long time ago, I attempted to develop this streaming appliance for education and attempts to bring education online, right? And away from the, I guess this was an NYU project a long time ago when they wanted to bring education out of the classrooms and into the online space using, unfortunately, Polycom as their technology. And that didn't quite work out well. Maybe there are other technologies out there that maybe they skipped out on or didn't understand how to implement, but I think it's really being creative, right? It's finding those people who are creative, who can take the technology and take it to a new ground, a new level that's going to be able to walk into the museum spaces or the museum clients and say, hey, look, this is what I've been able to do with this technology and using it in a new way that we've never thought of before. And that's, we're just kind of used to the old way of doing things right now, unfortunately.
That's a good point. Go ahead.
Sorry, it's interesting because I really like that idea of being able to take that and bring it in, even back with the AR and VR. If you think about museums, I've always been not necessarily a fan of, for example, in higher ed, doing AR and VR and all the Rs. Because I think that content is always the toughest thing. It's easy to sell it to, the donor on day one. Hey, let's put this big wall in, and then everyone forgets you got to change the content and keep it going. But museums are in the business of content, right? And if we can now take our technologies, and especially what you were just saying, Eugene, and be able to bring that in and allow those people who are good at doing content to supplement our technologies, I mean, that just sounds like a win-win in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think though, along with that, we may need to start looking into technologies that are being used in the retail market, right? There are specialized shoe manufacturers that are implementing projectors that are projecting information onto their shoes, their bags, and I've seen that kind of technology working in the museums very well. And I think perhaps we need to start also looking at other avenues because museums, it really is not about the technology, it's about the experience. And we have to find a way to remove part of the technology and offer more of the experience. And that's going to take a lot of creativity and a lot of exploring besides look at the projectors, look at LCD, look at, DVDs. I hate to say, but I do see, some people are still using DVDs in their spaces.
Eugene, at least you didn't say laser discs. That's all I'm going to say. All right, all right. Look it up, kids. It's an old technology. It's a big DVD. Just look it up. All right. Thanks so much for watching this first segment of AV Week. To check out the rest of the episode for free, click on the link below or go by the website avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.